Alright, I'm Dave Ratt, and today I'm going to talk about why flying the PA is awesome and ground stacking the PA sucks. A lot of times you get into a room, you look at it, seems like ground stack is fine, everything's covering. Flying the PA, this seems like more work than it needs to be, or why would you hang it out of the ceiling when you can cover everything from the ground? Aside from the obvious, where when a PA is ground stacked, if someone stands in front of you and the PA is at a fairly low height, then the person in front of you blocks the sound coming from the sound system, or you have the sound system so low that people up front or have a horn or the speakers blasting right into their ears. So there's definitely some advantages to getting those speakers such that they're farther away from the closest person. So the differential between the closest person and the farthest person is not such a great multiple. If it flies 20 feet, 30 feet in the air, the closest you can be to it is 30 feet. The farthest point might be 100 feet. You got a 3-to-1 ratio approximately. If he's ground stack and someone can be 5 feet from it and the farthest is 100 feet, now you've got a 20-to-1 ratio. Aside from that, there's something else that's quite interesting, and it has to do with temperature and the thermal aspects of the room, and that's what I'm going to look at next. What I've got here is a speaker up on a stick, up fairly high. This is the simulated flown PA. If you were to scale all this out, imagine this being many 10, 20, 30 feet in the air. These candles here represent our audience. I've got a pink noise generator back over there in the mess of wires running into this mixing board, and then I've got a mic switcher, a Sound Tools mic switcher that I've actually wired up backwards to be an output selector, and it'll allow me to send the pink noise to either the ground stack or the flown speaker. So let's give this a shot. First, let's go ahead and listen to the pink noise. Now what you're going to find that's interesting is, purely because of these locations, even though these speakers sound the same and they're EQ'd the same, they will sound quite different due to one being on the ground plane and one being up in the air. This is something we would EQ out or compensate for in other ways. I'll turn this on. That's the ground stack. And that's the phone. These people coming into the room are going to be warmer than the room temperature. Let's say the room temp is 70 degrees or 65 degrees. And these people are 90. Now, I realize that the candles are definitely hotter than humans, but since we're dealing with such short distances, using a higher temperature we kind of need that drastic temperature shift. The longer the distance, the lower the temperature offset would be to cause an issue. This will be our audience. They have the unlit candles so that any mechanical refraction issues that are caused by the candle structure, the actual dimensions of it, will be factored out, and we can listen to purely what's going on here. All right, so hopefully you were able to hear that. The refraction of sound that occurs from the heat causes it to dissipate, causes it to refract upwards away from this microphone that is recording and listening to what we're doing, and being somebody in the back of the house or halfway down the venue. And with the flown system, the sound is able to access that without being affected by the heat near as much. We heard a little bit from the heat coming up. And one way to think about it is like skipping stones from over a lake. If you have a flat stone and you throw it, if you're at a very low angle of incidence, it will reflect or bounce off the top of the water and skip along the surface. If you take that same stone and you come down at a higher level of incidence, then it will penetrate that thermal layer, or penetrate the water, which is the same as the sound penetrating the thermal layer. So by getting the system up high, we're able to project sound through the thermal layer and cover the audience more evenly and be less impacted by the heat radiated by the human surrounding. One more thing that happens there is outdoor venues. If you're shooting a sound system 200 feet and during the day the sun's shining onto the field, causing the ground to warm up, the sound will come out of the speaker and refract, and it'll actually extend its coverage and shoot much farther. Then when it cools down, if you compensate for that by pointing the system down farther, then later in the evening when it cools down, that issue will go away and it'll hit the short, then you have to go back up. And that's one of the things we find ourselves doing for larger scale venues when we're shooting a long distance. And another reason why trying to cover too much space, shooting too far outdoors becomes unwieldy. Using multiple delay clusters is a superior way to deal with covering large spaces due to environmental factors causing issues that are hard to compensate for. All right, hopefully that's interesting, and I will think of something else and do another video soon.